It's 100% Hockey with Millard and Shannon, working our way through a bit of industry news on the John Shannon Hockey Night in Canada legacy as we get set for Peter Laviolette.
How am I involved in this?
Well, you're two-time executive producer.
No, just one.
One? Right,
Yeah.
you were a senior producer the other time.
That's right.
Yeah. So you're a former executive producer of Hockey Night in Canada. Kelly was announcing this week that he will not return to the show.
Yes, you did have to wonder with the fact that the moniker Hockey Night in Canada will not continue on Rogers or on the CBC at this point. If this would give Rogers an opportunity to make some changes to their broadcast, to their national show, their Saturday night show, I guess, NHL on Rogers. And contracts for many of the people were up this summer, Daren. So this gave them an opportunity to try to make some changes. And the first shoe to fall, as Kelly announced yesterday, was that he was told on the 19th of June, which wasn't too much after the Stanley Cup final ended, that he would not be renewed from a position. It's something, unfortunately, that many of us are familiar with, our contracts not being renewed. And I sent Kelly a note last night saying, welcome to the club.
Emotional for you because you hired Kelly?
Sad. I believe in good people. I believe in quality people, and Kelly is a quality person. He and his wife, Donna, have been great friends for a long time, since the early 90s. Kelly was a great contributor to the success of Hockey Night in Canada for 3 decades. And it's difficult to see that type of change being made. I don't think it was for lack of effort. I don't think it was for lack of performance. It was obviously the desire to separate themselves from the past, and I can understand that. I respect that. That's a purely simple business decision. But at the same time, Kelly was part of our legacy in the mid '90s when we took over the show and changed it, moved it to a doubleheader. I added a pregame show, added a postgame show, so it's a sad day for me.
The decision to step away from their partnership with CBC, Rogers is changing the show and commentators as exhibited by this. But can you just walk us through, because a lot of people just think it's going to be Hockey Night in Canada on a different station. Is the name ceasing to exist, or what are we looking at the next step? How will it look different in September when the season starts?
Okay, so we all know or are aware that the national rights are held by Rogers.
Right.
So whether it's and I'm led to believe that almost all of the hockey will end up migrating completely to Sportsnet, to their multiple channels, their multiple sports channels. City TV will not nearly be as involved as it has been in the past as an over-the-air carrier of games. So given that Rogers is the national rights holder, and give them credit, $7.7 billion for the next 12 years. That's a lot of money to shell out. And so they were given control of the content. In the last 12 years, they had done an association with the CBC to allow Saturday nights to remain on the national public broadcaster. And for that, they got to use the name Hockey Night in Canada. CBC owns that name. CBC and Rogers were not able to come to a deal this summer to extend it. I'm not sure even if there was a desire for Rogers to do that. But so the name Hockey Night in Canada stays with the CBC. Well, the CBC doesn't have any hockey. So therefore, Hockey Night in Canada at this point will sit on the shelf. Do I think Hockey Night in Canada will come back on the CBC at some point in some form or manner? Yes. Will we recognize it? No.
And on Sportsnet or Rogers, it becomes the NHL on Rogers.
On NHL and Sportsnet, which, you and I were both part of, Daren, for a while. And they had been trying to move the brand from Hockey Night to NHL on Sportsnet for this whole original 12-year period. So this is not a surprise. And so that's exactly what has happened. I think the 12 years of being on Hockey Night on CBC and this announcement this summer softened the blow for Rogers, softened the blow easily for Rogers. If this had happened in 2014, there might have been a parliamentary inquiry. Truly, there might have been public outcry so bad that how could Hockey Night in Canada not exist on the CBC, and how could CBC never have NHL hockey again? I think that would have been a massive story. But the 12 years softened that blow, and now Rogers has that right to move it away from the CBC, and that's exactly what they've done.
We are aware that Wednesday nights have been sold off to Amazon Prime. Well,
right.
What do you think Saturday nights will look like from a format point of view? Rudy
no
is,
idea.
Is
honestly
out.
No idea.
So we don't know who's back.
Not at this point. I mean, we don't know what commentators are there. I can only assume that Ron McLean and Chris Cuthbert and Craig Simpson and Elliot Friedman are part of the future at Rogers. I mean, and there'd be no reason to think that they wouldn't be. Honestly, there'd be no reason to think that they wouldn't be. So,
well, was there a reason to think that Kelly wouldn't be back?
So most hockey production, no matter what network, is 80% the same. 80%. And what happens in the other 20%, what I describe as the icing on the cake, the wrapping on the Christmas present, is what a network subjectively does in order to make it look like their own. And so from that perspective, Rogers is changing the color of the icing and changing the wrapping paper. And so I don't mean in a demeaning way, but announcers and particularly studio people are wrapping paper and icing. That's what they are. And so that from that perspective, Rogers is deciding to make a change. This is the right time to make the change. If you're going to change now. You don't have Hockey Night in Canada anymore. You have a chance to reinvent the wheel. By the way, the best wheels are still round. And this is where, Kevin Bieksa might be given a higher place within Hockey Night in Canada.
Almost feels like now would have been the better time to do the whole Strombo experiment.
Well, isn't that what happened 12 years ago? They tried to do that 12 years ago, but only with one person.
Right. But then that was met with backlash.
Terrible. I felt bad for George. Awful. I felt terrible for George. George, a good person. But, the traditional broadcast that was being done and George Stroumboulopoulos were like oil and water. It did not work. And you know what? You're right. It may work in 2026 as opposed to 2014.
Change in LA. Peter Laviolette is going to join us in a little bit.
You surprised?
He wanted to coach.
I want to coach.
So I'm not surprised. He's won a cup, and the thing about Laviolette is he gets results early on,
quickly. Yeah, that's right.
Like look at his last stop, won the President's Trophy.
Yeah, and there is some. I know it's just coincidence, but here we are, 20 years after he won his cup in Carolina, and Carolina wins again. Mm-hmm. But you're right. Well, Peter is a no nonsense guy. That it will end up being a fascinating start to a season where, Kenny Holland's team is going through its own transformation. No Anze Kopitar. They've already discussed that Drew Doughty will not be offered another contract during this remaining part of his contract. So they'll figure out what he's going to do at the end of that tenure. It's a fascinating time to see what the LA Kings are doing at a point where, and as you well know, the Pacific Division is not getting any easier. San Jose is going to be better. Anaheim's going to be better. Edmonton and Vegas are already good. So it's going to be a tough road to hoe for Peter Laviolette and the Kings.
Got some good reaction out of Travis Green of the Ottawa Senators recently. We'll see what we can pull out of Peter Laviolette next on 100% Hockey with Millard and Shannon.
Face Off Inside the NHL returns, taking you deeper behind the scenes than ever before. See it all from the star-studded Four Nations Face Off tournament.
Us against the world, boys.
To the adrenaline of the Stanley Cup playoffs.
I'm scared of you guys.
With candid interviews and backstage access, experience the sacrifice, the rivalries, and the determination that define NHL greatness.
Just when I thought last year couldn't be topped, here we are.
A new season of Face Off Inside the NHL. Watch now only on Prime Video.
As we teed up, here's Peter Laviolette. How's your summer been?
It's been busy, which is good. After being off for a year, I think busy is a good thing. And so, when you have the whole year off and you watching games through the course of the winter and nothing really happens, and it's just kind of moving along, waiting for something to happen. When things actually do start to happen like they did this summer, it becomes pretty busy. And then, fortunate enough to land in LA and get that opportunity, but then comes the staff and getting with the players and getting out there and finding housing and getting ready for training camp and rookie camp, development camp, the draft, free agency. So it was right away, it just started picking up the heat again. But it was good. It was good to be away. It just refreshed a little bit, and now it's certainly great to be back. It's a different kind of feeling, though, if I'm being honest. Like, usually it's the first time I've ever been out all year. And so to actually be out a year, it just seems like it's going so slow right now coming back to the season, where sometimes you might play until May or even into June. And then that turnover is really quick. It seems like, the days just go by so quick, 30 days, and you're back at it, and you've got free agency again. So, like I said, the break was good, but I can't wait to get back. It seems like the days are going slow right now, and I want them to go a little bit quicker.
That list of things that you were going through this summer, it was almost a classic case. I thought of, be careful what you wish for, but
yeah. Well, it was a good thing. Like I said, just being off. So it was a good thing. And, and once you get to a point, you want to come back and you want to be a part of it again and take charge of another team and see if what you're able to accomplish together as a group. At that point, you're really excited, and there's just not a lot of these jobs and opportunities, and so when you get one, it's always exciting.
How would you define what you did during the winter? How much hockey did you watch? How much time did you take away? And then, more importantly, when did you decide, or was it always in the back of your mind that you wanted to coach again?
At the end of last summer, I think the break was really needed. Just leaving New York, it was good. From there, I was able to do things that they sound so small, kind of, but I just don't get to do them. I got to watch my kids play sports. My son played in the East Coast Hockey League, so I got to watch him play games, which most parents can do whenever they want to do it, but it just doesn't happen when you're coaching. I got to go to Scotland and watch my daughter's boyfriend play golf. He's on the tour over there in Scotland and Australia. And so, a trip to Scotland doesn't sound like it should be that crazy, but it would never happen. And so I got a chance to do that and see St. Andrews and be a part of that. I think being around the family a little bit more. And there's things that you're able to do. I wasn't watching very much hockey at all at the start of the year. And then you start to watch as the playoffs start to push and you get past January 1, I started to be watching more hockey. Found myself watching Tampa Bay just because I live down in the Tampa Bay area. So I would watch them a little bit more. And then as it became, closer to the playoffs, that's when I really started finding myself watching more hockey, and then ultimately started, working back with TSN a little bit and watching all games and commenting, and you start to think like that a little bit more. And that's when, going into that area, I kind of knew that I wanted to get back. I was totally refreshed from, it was, like I said, it was the first break I had in 25 years, first full year off in 25 years where, I didn't have to think about training camp or a team or whatever it might be that comes with coaching. So it was good. it was time to go back. I was ready to go back. And like I said, with that, I was fortunate to get the opportunity in LA.
You a guy that works back channels a little bit, or do you just wait for people to come to you?
So during the season, I didn't reach out much. When the opportunity came and I knew I wanted to go back before the playoffs started, I started to get into it more, watching more, missing it, wanting to be there, wanted to take another shot with another team. I think you do a little bit of work to try and let it be known that you want to get back out there. And then, you hope that you've done enough in your past that somebody will pick up the phone and call. And like I said, I was fortunate that happened. So there's always a little bit that goes into it, and then just being prepared for that. And, that can get a little bit busy and crazy too, because if there's more than one team calling, you're juggling teams on those interviews as they happen.
And you had that happen.
Yeah, it was busy. It was busy for a little bit. So, but it was good. I always think that interviewing is a great thing. I think it's, something that you can really work at, just like every part of your life, I guess. And, some of the presentations that I've given through coaching have been on interviewing. Maybe because I've done it so much, I'm not sure. But I think there's things that you can really learn the more you practice. So my son, for instance, he's going to start coaching. He just landed a coaching job, but he was going through the interview process, and he was with 7 or 8 teams. And so it was really about trying to coach him up. He had never had to interview for anything before. And there's things that, you should be prepared for. There's things that you should want to say, things that you should want to do inside of that presentation. So just helping him along was kind of great as well. So
that's an interesting concept. How do you go into an interview and sell yourself without appearing arrogant?
Yeah, I'll say those words exactly. I'll be dead honest. I'll say those words exactly. I said, listen, I'm gonna tell you why I'm the guy for the job. You'll never hear me talk about myself again, but this is why I'm the guy for that job. Try to disarm it a little bit if you can in that interview, so that 1, they don't think that you're arrogant, and 2, they can tell that you really want the job, because these are the things that you're gonna offer solutions to. And usually I found when you go into an interview, there's a reason why you're getting interviewed. There's something that needs to be changed. There's something that they want to move in a different direction. Not always, but oftentimes that's the case. Your job is to have them believe that you're the guy to fix that.
In our preamble, we talked about how you are, to that point, and I mean this respectfully, a quick fix guy. You have the ability to turn a team around rather quickly. Yeah. What's the secret sauce?
Well, I'm not sure. Every team's been a little bit different. In Carolina, I got hired. We didn't make the playoffs the first year, and then the second year we won the cup. In Nashville, it was made the playoffs after not making it for a little bit, but lost in the first round. And then the next year won a Game 7 and then lost a Game 7. It was the third year where we got to the finals, and we ended up losing in Game 6 in the finals. And so they're all a little bit different. But I do think that there's a chance to make an impact with a team right off the bat. Like, I'm pretty strong with my convictions about a team, about the culture of a team, about the style that we should play, about motivating a team. I think that there's opportunities for a new coach to come in and really move the needle in that first year. And certainly I'm going to try and do that in Los Angeles as well.
You're with the Kings, but you were interviewed in Edmonton. Talked to a lot of players there. Was that process unique, that experience unique?
Yeah, I mean, I think every interview is different. But that's what I was saying. Every interview, I think you can learn something from as well, especially for a young coach. Like, I've been through it. This is the 7th time I've gotten hired. I had to get hired in the East Coast League. I had to get hired in the American Hockey League. I had to get hired in the NHL as an assistant coach. I interviewed for other jobs as well, out of the country, for USA Hockey, whatever it might be. I think there's always something to learn from an interview, and there's something that you can take from it. And it may not always be this cookie cutter script that you think that it's going to go a certain way. And, some of the teams, they just do things a little bit differently, and they have their reasons for it. But I think that you can learn from that and become a better coach, a better interviewer, a better person just from interviewing. I think the art of interviewing is unique. It requires preparation. You have to be prepared when you go in there, but it's also a pretty cool thing that I think that you can really get good at, and you can become good at interviewing.
So you and Kenny Holland are both lifers. Did you know Kenny very well prior to this?
I would know him to say hi, but not know him really on a personal level. And the more I've gotten to know him, is the more you realize how easy he is to like, and how respected he is as a general manager. You listen to him and you watch him in his meetings and the way he goes about his business. And it was the interview process with him was easy. The conversations were easy, and they were good. And I'm looking forward to working with Kenny, because he's somebody who has such a good reputation throughout the league, amongst his peers, amongst the players, amongst the owners. So it's a great opportunity for me.
Well, you could at least share the stories about St. Andrews, because we know Holland's he's a golf nut, and always goes to Scotland every summer to play golf. So
yeah, I'll tell you this. I followed my daughter's boyfriend around. And I'll tell you a quick story. Well, I'll tell you that first. So I followed them around. You think you need mental toughness in life and in all of sports. I think that golf might be the one that you need the most mental toughness, because it's just you. And when you're following somebody around and you're watching that one person, it's amazing. And he's a really good golfer, and he did great while we were over there. But it's amazing the little, one hole that doesn't go your way, and somehow you have to mentally be able to get that back on track and get it going. And I didn't appreciate it as much until I had a personal connection to a golfer and actually followed him around and watched him in a live tournament. I mean, if we go out and shoot and I miss a putt, or I hit one OB, we laugh it off, we tee it up again. We might not even count the stroke. we might just say, mulligan. That's my noon ball. You know what I mean? Whatever it might be. And so, but they have to account for everything. The cool thing I learned about St. Andrews is probably one of the most prestigious courses in the world, right? It's got one of the biggest names. It's St. Andrews, right? And they don't allow, it's a public course, but they don't allow anybody to play golf on Sunday. I didn't know if you guys knew that or not, but Sunday is the big day for us here in the United States. Like, you play Saturday, you definitely play on Sunday. It's a big time to go out and play golf. On Sundays, they don't, and they open it up to the public, right, to be able just to go on the course, take your dog out there, walk around, walk the 18th green, do whatever you want to do. It's just open to the public, and I thought that was unique and different.
Do you play? Do you play golf? Do you play golf?
I don't play a lot of golf. I played 9 holes over there. I split it with my boyfriend, my daughter's boyfriend's mom. She played 9 and I played 9, because they just had a foursome, and that was good for me. We had just gotten into town. I was a little bit jet lagged, but whatever. But yeah, I played the new course. I played 9 holes on the new course.
So on the DP World Tour, what's your daughter's boyfriend's name? We got to follow him.
Yeah, his name's Cam Harlock, and so he's I played with him twice. He shot 5 under both times. He never looked at a putt. He helped me out as much as he could. He helped me out, which is kind of a futile cause. Like, it's not going to get any better here. But he's a real good golfer.
Does he talk to you about your game?
No, he's smarter than that. He's smarter than to give, the potential maybe down the road more than my daughter's boyfriend to give me advice. And so he's great. I'll ask him, I'll say, what do you see here on this putt? And I'm looking left, and he's like, no, it's 4 feet to the right. And so he'll help me out that way. But he's not going to come in and say, your swing is a little bit bad. So
we'll pause it there, and we'll come back with Peter Laviolette from the Los Angeles Kings next on 100% Hockey with Millard and Shannon.
NHL TV is now on DAZN. Hockey lives here.
Here we go.
Watch every game from every team. The best players in the world. And the coldest plays on ice. Watch up to 4 games at once for the ultimate NHL experience. Sign up now at DAZN.
How was the process of putting your staff together in LA?
It was good. I mean, I had already, going into it, I had already talked to Phil Housley. That was an important piece for me. He's a Hall of Fame defenseman. He was been a head coach in the NHL. To run the defense and look at matchups and pairings and stuff like that, to work with the D. I had worked with Phil before, and so I was fortunate that he wanted to come back and take another crack at it as well. Chris Height was a guy that had been in the organization, had been on the penalty kill, had a lot of familiarity with the younger players. That was important. And so, and he worked, I don't know if you know this or not, but he worked for Phil in Buffalo.
Yeah.
When Phil was the head coach there, he was an assistant. So Phil spoke of him highly. And, the one that was a little bit more of a wild card was Ray Whitney, who, was looking to get in. And I worked with Ray. I think he's a brilliant mind and a brilliant hockey player, and really wanted to get after it. And so Ray comes in and he'll help out the forwards and the power play a little bit. But it's, it was good. Again, now that you go from being interviewed to interviewing, and you're looking for certain pieces in your lineup, and I think that's a good thing to try and nail those pieces down. And I thought we were able to do that in LA.
You also go from your phone not ringing to your phone ringing off the hook.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Ringing barely just to get the one to get the job, and then it's ringing everywhere.
Yeah. That's the amazing. We've all been through that. Know who you'll end up learning who your friends are in the first bout when the phone keeps ringing or doesn't ring at all. Yeah. So you and I actually have a few things in common, because I was in charge of hockey in '98 in Calgary at the Olympics.
Oh yeah, no kidding.
And I was in charge again in '94 in Lillehammer.
No kidding.
So I was one of those guys walking by the American Room in Calgary where Dave Peterson was sitting with ass backwards on his chair talking to everybody, and that was the best hockey team, in my opinion. That was the best hockey team. If you look at the roster, that didn't win a thing. It was crazy.
No, I know. I actually thought that we played pretty well in a lot of those games too, and for whatever reason we just didn't get it done. So. But you're right. I mean, if you go back and you look at the names, they're good names. They're good players.
Mike Richter, Brian Leach.
Yeah.
I mean, not bad.
No,
not bad. The reason I bring that up is that, with your year off, part of this was you were able to watch the American Olympic team win the gold medal.
Yeah.
What did it mean to you personally?
Well, being an American and being a hockey player, it meant a lot. I think what really pushed it over the edge was my time with USA Hockey, and just putting in wherever it could be, whether it be Deutschland Cups or whether it be World Championships or the Olympics, playing and coaching that I was involved in. To see us get over the edge and win a tournament like that was amazing. I think that the players that we're sending to the Olympics right now are really talented guys. They're coming from that development program. A lot of them are coming from that development program. My roommate, you mentioned 88 in Calgary. My roommate, Jimmy Johansson.
Yeah.
He was instrumental in developing that and getting that up and running. And you see it now. You see the players coming out, all the first round picks, the impact players in the NHL, which leads to having the possibility of having a good national team or a good Olympic team or a good team that can represent your country. And I think that's where we're at now. So there's a lot that went into it from a lot of people before that group. And then that group ultimately went over and did what they needed to do. And so it was a big deal.
Did you have any of your USA Hockey memorabilia around you during that gold medal game?
It's out now. A lot of my stuff had been in storage for so long because we were building a house down in Florida, and we had just a boatload of storage crates, and so there was a lot of stuff that was in storage. I don't think it made it out of the boxes for that yet, but a lot of it is out now, whether it be pictures or team pictures, just some memorabilia from those times.
You talked about Jimmy and what he did, and it's really a shame that he wasn't here to enjoy the riches that he helped create. But that gap that you saw when you were a player between, the Russians and the Canadians and the Americans, I'm not sure there's a gap anymore, is there?
No, I don't think so. I think it's, I think after watching what's gone on in the last few years, I'd say that we're up at the top. And I guess right now at the top, right? We just played the Olympics. That was best on best, minus Russia. and we came out on top. And so that gap has definitely been narrowed. That's not to slight the Canadians and the program that they have going on, or the fact that the Finns seem to win whenever they want to, or Sweden always puts out a good team, but certainly the USA and the production of the players and the development of the players, I think, has been steady, and it's been with a lot of effort from a lot of people. And now you're starting to see those players, and they're having an impact for us in big tournaments.
You mentioned earlier this is your 7th stop in the National Hockey League as a head coach. Have you changed from place to place, and do you plan on that again, or do you try and stay true to yourself, consistent?
I think for the most part, I've always kind of been who I am. It's I never really prepare paperwork or write speeches or anything. Usually, what I see, it's in my head, it's in my heart, and it comes out to the locker room, to the players. I still think that motivation's a big thing. I still think being able to walk into a room and move the players and getting them excited about whatever the cause might be. I think that that's really important. There's a lot of things that go into coaching, from preparation to teaching to accountability, discipline. There's a lot of things that go into it, and so those traits I think you can continually get better at. Especially when you're a first-year coach. I remember being back in Wheeling, taking on my first job in the East Coast Hockey League, and I'm thinking about it. I don't even know if I had a system. I don't know if I had any practice drills. And obviously it's come a long way since then, and so is coaching. Just like the players, I believe that coaches have come a long way as well. There's a lot more coaches. They're better schooled. They have a lot more experience, and there's a lot more to choose from. So there's more opportunity, and there are more coaches. But I do think that times have changed. I remember that there were no computers when I first started coaching. There was a VHS or VHF tape player.
S.
VHS tape player. And you're trying to figure out how to get one to the other. You know what I mean? And trying to figure out how to put 2 clips together for a meeting the next day. And now it's so quick on the computer, and now we have video guys, and things can be done at at a quicker pace. And it's important. You think about, the analytics. You think about the strength and conditioning. You think about the mental coaches that are out there that can help players. You think about the dietitians that come in now, and they work with the players, and to make sure, the sleep doctors that come in, the doctors, the training staffs, the size of the staffs. So I think everything's changed. I think the player has changed as well, and it's more, maybe when you first came in, you ruled a bit more with an iron hammer and iron fist, and just said this is the way it's going to be. And I do think that there's more communication now with the players and how we're going to go about our business and how we're going to win hockey games. So I do think that a lot of things have changed. I think there are things inside of me that I remain consistent with as a coach, and my beliefs on how to do things. But then I also believe that the game has changed, the players have changed, the technology and the support has changed, and a head coach needs to change with that as well.
Does that mean you're more relaxed?
No, I think it's probably more the other way, to be honest with you. I think there's always been pressure. There's always been that high level of pressure and stress inside of coaching. But like I said, I followed my daughter's boyfriend around and his stress and his pressure. I think that that's just life. The players have it, the coaches have it, the fans have it when they're in the in the stands, and they like what they're seeing. They got the pressure to win, and when they don't like it, they take it home and they wear it just like we do. So I think I think that's just sports in general. It just kind of follows us everywhere.
So I wasn't going to tell this story, but you've opened the door. It's a perfect time to tell it. One of my other jobs was I was in charge of broadcasting for the NHL, and my first year there was 2006. Mm-hmm. So your team goes and wins the Stanley Cup, the Carolina Hurricanes, 20 years ago, and we're in Edmonton before Game 3.
Yeah,
and Bob Cole, the great voice of Hockey Night in Canada, comes to you and says, and he did this with every coach in the league. Hey, Peter, I got to get your lines. Bob wouldn't tell a soul. He would not tell one person. He wouldn't even tell the production staff what he had. And you said, nope, I'm not giving it out.
Yeah. I've heard this story quite a few times from a lot of different people.
Really?
And yeah, I have. I actually heard it. Ray Whitney reminded me of it. Just a,
Well,
a
it
few weeks
is
ago.
true because I was standing right there, sir.
Yeah. And so I'm not saying that it wasn't true. I guess what I'm saying is I was a guy that was probably only a year or two into the NHL and wasn't totally paying attention when I was in the bathroom, going to the bathroom on who was asking me questions and what it might be. But the bottom line is back then, I probably wouldn't have given it to anybody. Not in a game like that. Me not knowing him personally.
Right.
Me not knowing him, I wouldn't have given that lineup to my mother. If my mother asked me for the lineup for Game 6, I would have said, no, it's not happening, Mom. Oh, he's going to, God rest, but he's going to have to get over that. We're all going to have to get over it. That's just who it was. I sometimes give my lineup out now. I'll pass it on. I've softened as I've gotten a little bit.
I don't know. Joe Micheletti told me you were pretty good to him. You used to look after Joe. So
yeah, Joe was good. Oh, I'll give it to our guys. Like when we're in the room, but maybe not in a game. In the Game 6, you see it up on a board, and they're getting the stats ready in the game, and the starting goalie that you don't want out there, he's up there. And I've softened. I've become soft when it regards.
That was
regard to that. But early on, boy, nobody was getting it.
What did you make of your old team and Rod Brindamore particularly winning the cup this year?
Well, I couldn't have been happier for Carolina. I could not have been happier for Rod. I think he's done an amazing job as a coach there, not just this year, but for a lot of years. He's done an amazing job. And they played really well. I mean, we played them a couple years ago in the playoffs, and they were just a hard team to play against. They're a hard team to play against all the time. And they play the game hard. They play it the right way. It was nice to see them get back on top. We were down there in January because it was 20 years from when we had won it in 2006. And so we had a reunion. Back then, all the players showed up. And then we met after a game, and the game didn't go the way they wanted to, but yet they all came out. Roddy came out, and it was just great to see everybody and to watch them. And just going back 20 years, like there were so many players that I hadn't seen, and I got a chance to sit down and have a beer with and talk to them, and it was amazing. Guys that I hadn't seen Nick Wallin in 20 years. One of our defensemen, and I got to sit down and just chat with him and see his family and whatever. So that was really good. But then to watch them continue through the playoffs the way they did and to ultimately come out on top, I was really happy for the organization, the players, and certainly Rod and Jeff Daniels and Chris Huffine and a lot of the guys that were still there from the time that I was there in 2006.
A genuinely curious question. Taking over LA, is it easier for you and your staff to navigate the transition from Anze Kopitar in the organization because you didn't coach him before?
It could be. I've got to get out there now. You're looking for leadership, and you're going into camp a little bit more with your eyes wide open. Anze had been such a staple for them with regard to the leadership and what he provided for that team. Such a class person and a class act, and a terrific player as well. And so, now having to turn that page and move on in a different direction, I think it maybe has opened our eyes up as a staff more to go into training camp and to see who emerges, who are the guys that are actually on the inside running this team and leading this team. And so I believe that there's a lot of good candidates in there. But it's summertime. While I've had conversations, I haven't gotten a chance to work with anybody, to see anybody, and I don't think a short training camp really helps either. But we'll get there and we'll figure that out. This is the first time that I'll be going, or everybody, I guess, going through a training camp that's a lot shorter and not as many games and different rules and different restrictions and how you're going to manage that part of it. But everybody's in the same boat, and I've always found that when everybody's doing the same thing, there's no advantage or disadvantage. So we'll get in there, we'll go to work, and we'll start sifting through all of that. But I do think that it would be different from that standpoint. Going back, if I were there for a couple years, as opposed to not being there, I'm going in there just with my eyes wide open.
I would suggest your biggest challenge is going to be because you travel so much more with LA than you do any other team you coached, you're going to have less practice time.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll factor into it a little bit. But, the practice time, like, again, it goes back to the people that are involved and the workloads that are monitored now throughout the practices and the games and where the players are at. And I found myself that even if you're on the East Coast, the games are still the games. There's still travel involved. When you're in LA, I'm just looking at the schedule, you're going for 5-game road trips, 6-game road trips. So we're going to the East Coast, or we're going to Florida, or wherever it might be. And we're going to play some games and knock them out. So inside of that one trip out there, you're going to move around kind of like you did on the East Coast and take care of some business. But there's no question that gets monitored now, where, back in the day, 20 years ago, after 5 games and 8 nights and the 5th game wasn't good, well, that 9th day was going to be a tough practice, and so everything gets monitored a little bit more. But certainly the workload, the time, the travel, the schedule, all of that factors into it. We'll figure that out when we get there.
Before I let you go, L.A., famous, beautiful, wonderful, jam-packed city. What are you looking forward to doing when you're there?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great place just based on where everything's at with regard to the airport, the practice facility, and they only get downtown for games. It's just a real nice place to live. Like, you're near the beach, and Hermosa Beach and Manhattan Beach, and just kind of its own little bubble there is what I've learned in my short time. And players really enjoy it. Everybody stays in that area. They're not too far from each other, and so that's kind of a cool thing to be in that situation. I always remember going into LA, and the place could be rocking, the fans could be rocking, there could be star power in the seats, and the Will Ferrell and that'd be Will and Steve Carell, and you see the guys up on the board all the time, and so that's always pretty cool to get to see that. And I guess Will's a huge fan, and that's awesome. I love the fact that they're there. It was kind of like that in New York as well.
Sure.
New York always threw the star power up on the boards, and lots of people and great atmosphere in New York at MSG. And so it kind of has that same feel. It kind of has that same feel in LA with the building and the games. And we got to move the needle on the ice and get the people jumping out there and bring them in. But that's the whole plan, is to go out there and do that. So we're excited to get going.
Refreshed and back at it. Congratulations on the hiring, and looking forward to you with the Los Angeles Kings, pal.
All right. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Peter Laviolette, back with 100% Hockey on Millard and Shannon.
With the NHL app, you can listen to every NHL game right from your phone. And with home and away broadcast feeds, you choose your way to listen.
And he scores!
Whether you're at work, at the gym, or stuck in traffic, the NHL app puts you right in the action all season long. Every team, every game, everywhere you go. Download the NHL app and never miss a moment.
I've been around Pete forever.
Mm-hmm.
Never really spent a lot of time with Pete over the years.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I've met him a couple of times. Again, mutual friends. Joe Micheletti and I are great friends, and he always talked highly of Peter. I go back to in Daren early 2000s. The rivalry between the Islanders and the Maple Leafs.
Yeah,
Peter was, and I was working for the Maple Leaf organization at the time. Peter was hardly approachable, so he can get the game face on pretty quick, which is why I had to ask the Bob Cole question, because it has become an urban myth of that confrontation of Bob Cole before one of the games there, asking for the lineup, and Pete said, "No, I'm not giving it to you," and Bob going apoplectic right then and there, because he had never been denied. Even I remember doing the World Cup of Hockey in 1996, and Bob convincing the Russian coach to give the lineup, and he wouldn't tell the soul. And so this was a tremendous slight to Mr. Bob Cole that Peter Laviolette wouldn't give him the lineup.
Did Bob overreact on that?
He might have. And
Seeing Bob emotional was part of the enjoyment at times.
Well, Bob lived the game with an intensity of a player, and so from that perspective, it became an urban myth. It became that whole story for 20 years became an urban myth, and every time I ran into Peter, I was afraid to ask him.
I've heard it told from the Philadelphia Flyers Stanley Cup final when he coached there. From that point of view, the locations changed, but the stories remain relatively consistent.
Hey, by the way, speaking of Bob Cole, we're going to take the next few weeks, and with everything that's going on, and now that Kelly's been let go, we're going to take some time to salute and reflect what Hockey Night in Canada means to so many people on this podcast. We're gonna take some time, talk to some greats, Dick Irvin, Dave Hodge, a few of the contemporaries about what it was like to be in and around Hockey Night and how much of an impact it had on their lives, their careers, and how much of an impact it had on the audience. So hopefully people will enjoy the next few shows. You might even be invited to be on.
Well, I would just like to sit here and listen. I'll intro the segments and just listen, although we both know that won't stay very quiet very often. On the theme of reflecting, Lloyd Robertson passed away this week, somebody that you worked with a couple of times.
Did a couple of Olympics, for our Canadian audience. Yeah, Lloyd was, and for our American audience, actually, he was our Walter Cronkite. But he transcended news. I mean, the first time, to a shock, I saw Lloyd Robertson do the Olympics in Montreal in 1976 as the host. And I said, what is the news guy doing the Olympics for? But I got to work closely with Lloyd at a couple of Olympics, in 94 in Lillehammer, and 92 in Barcelona. And he was just he was a gentleman, a consummate pro. I don't think he had a mean bone in his body. I think he was one of those people that he had an aura about himself anywhere you would go. And you know, in your time at Sportsnet, when they were up in the same building, Daren, I'm sure that you saw Lloyd on a regular basis, and Lloyd, who loved sports, would always have time to sit and talk.
So what's going on? What's keeping your attention tonight? But he had that booming voice, the baritone voice. Yeah. I do remember because we would go over for makeup or the cafeteria, and I had my best one of my best buddies, Kurt, with me, giving him a tour, and we saw Lloyd passing, and I'd been around for a little bit, and Lloyd and I would see each other in the hallways, and I said, "Hi, Lloyd," and I'm showing off. I'm like just the guy. "Hi, Lloyd." And he went, "Hi." This is the guy that made his living saying names. And my buddy just stopped. Lloyd went around the corner. My buddy stopped and went, "He has no idea who you are."
I do, but truly, you know, for 2 or 3 generations, Lloyd Robertson did what great news anchors do, whether it's Cronkite or Jennings. They tell you the stories of life. Those jobs don't necessarily exist anymore with the way that news is disseminated. But for those of us over the age of 40, they truly are part of our lives.
We were very lucky with Mansbridge and Robertson in that cycle of television. We will talk to you again, reflecting on Hockey Night in Canada as we continue on 100% Hockey with Millard and Shannon.